Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are on this lovely world, hopefully in good shape and enthusiastic to the following upcoming hour with our special guest, Noriko Yokoi. She is visiting us for the second time, and now we are asking her for advice and some educating and generally more in-depth challenging things about the role of SEO and GEO for CX. As Noriko has a lot of knowledge on the one hand, where we had her as a guest on advertising, and she has spent over 20 years on Madison Avenue convincing Fortune 100 companies to spend money on advertising at the right end so that they have an outcome, and then decided the real adventure was telling startups the truth about what actually works. Now, having said that, Noriko holds a PhD from the London School of Economics, a very interesting school, especially if you have friends and family visiting that school as well and telling you a lot of interesting stories. And a German, Lord Dahrendorf, for instance, is a very well-known economic scientist on the other area, not the advertising, but it is compelling that the thinking of that school is special. And coming back to thinking, design thinking certification from the MIT is another one where she did get her graduation on. And the top 6% of Venture Institute famously brutal 9-week program, she survived. Yeah? And she has been a pitch judge, a startup mentor, and a co-founder of 3cubed.ai, where she builds AI-powered automation for industries that can't afford to get things wrong, such as healthcare, life science, financial services. And this is when she was a year ago with us, and we had her in our audience in the opportunity to learn a bit about the impact of AI on advertising. We would like to learn today more what about geometrics in the market do influence, and she is happily trying to give us some advice on the methodology, on the creative parts. And I would just welcome Noriko. And sorry, what did I forget in the introduction?
Nothing. Thank you so much for the introduction. So glad to be here, Ralph. And thank you so much for inviting me, Thomas.
As we are talking about LLMs soon, did our personal LLMs hallucinate anything?
No, not at all. You did very well. Thank you so much. You had a human in the loop, checking all the content.
Thank you, ma'am. That's exactly what we learned from former guests, and especially after we had you on the advertising topic. Check it, baby.
Yeah. Trust but verify.
Yeah. Better safe than sorry.
Yeah. I mean, they are meanwhile employing one LLM to verify the output of another one.
Yes.
So
I think a lot of people
doesn't need us much longer anymore. Probably also. But, I mean, recently did a LinkedIn Live presentation, and there you have been quite good. So not only good, but also took quite a stand. So, I mean, there's a lot of change from when we are going into website and search-based advertising to the new breed of generative AI-based advertising. I mean, OpenAI is already sending us those ads that we may or may not want to see, and partly even have the pleasure of paying for seeing them, because the low-tier programs are, well, still giving us ads. And this to me looks a lot like the early stages of SEO right now. If we are looking at advertising. I mean, I want to optimize my what question mark, so that my ad shows up and not price.
Okay.
And how can, right now my understanding is that can't really be measured. So how do I do this? How do I work through all this new thing?
Sure. So you're right. Generative engine optimization is a very new discipline. And for anyone who lived through the digital marketing revolution of the early 2000s and still remember that, can remember how SEO was a small thing, and now it's like an $80 billion industry. So for some people, they're like, yeah, I remember this happening, however many years ago, 15, 20 years ago. And some people are saying, I'm not going to miss, getting on the boat. This time I want to be on, at the foundational level. So it is absolutely right that there's a lot of confusion out there. You are on LinkedIn every single day. I mean, there are influencers and marketers and digital marketers, SEO strategists who are writing about, the difference between SEO, AEO, and GEO. And a lot of them are really nice, pretty explainer PDFs that sort of say something but don't say anything. Like, it's really difficult to know what is the difference. And part of it, I think, is intentional. Like, if take a step back, if you're an SEO specialist right now, your world is changing dramatically. And as an SEO specialist who has, studied this and has specialized in this for decades, they don't want this to go away. And so there are some SEO strategists saying generative engine optimization is good SEO, meaning if you do good SEO, you'll appear in GEO. However, there's a fundamental difference between SEO and GEO, and I'll get to the question that you had, Thomas, which is SEO was all about ranking, right? Ranking and making sure that your website ranked top of the first page, and there'll be blue links, lots of blue links, depending upon your ranking level. And then you chose between one of these things. Whereas with generative engine optimization, these LLMs go all over the internet and look for sources that they deem as most citable, most authoritative, most likely to have expertise behind this. And then they have, instead of showing 5, 10, 15 different links, they provide one answer. There are sources behind this one answer, but there's only one answer, right? And so fundamental difference in how you become visible in AI. And it's like very confusing. People don't know what to do. And there are lots of tools that are out there now, GEO tools that are out there. But the fundamental difference between SEO and GEO is that Google, which has been the leader in search engine optimization, has published keyword rankings, like keywords, volume of keywords, whereas none of the LLMs publish that. So that is behind, no one has access to that. And so but marketers, owners of brands want some way of influencing how they appear in LLM. So that is the big question. And that is what people are trying to solve for right now. So you're right. There isn't an answer, meaning ChatGPT isn't going to open up its vault and say, hey, you want to know what is the best CRM platform and how many times has that prompt been searched? Well, we're not going to tell you, right? So that is the fundamental problem right now.
But in order to become authoritative, which I want because I want them coming my way, and as I said, not somebody else's, isn't the easiest way out or into that to just publish a little more and Gosh, I got an LLM for that.
Yes, you can publish. I mean, basically, what you need to do to appear in generative engine optimization, and it's about AI visibility. Do the LLMs know that you exist? And it's really not related to keywords, which was the old way of doing things. It's really about the authority of your information. And what I mean by that is that LLMs tend to go for either earned media or blogs or articles that show your expertise. And the earliest generative engine optimization article that was published on GEO, had some of the earliest sort of indicators of what that meant. First of all, they needed to see the name of the author right up at the top, and they want to know that the author was an expert in that field. So it's your name and any sort of title that made you an expert. And in addition to that, instead of of course, we're all in marketing, but GEO doesn't like fluff, and GEO LLMs dislike what they call marketing fluff, whereas they like depth and expertise and knowledge, deep knowledge on a subject, which is sort of counterintuitive to the way that marketers have written articles, which is about simplicity and making it short and that anyone can read. And of course, LLMs want some level of simplicity, but they want to know that that subject really well. And so, that's
let me hook in right there and then, because I mean, LLM generated content can be described as instant mediocrity. So means it's full of fluff. How can those same systems that do produce nothing but fluff, to exaggerate a little, assess my or Ralph's content and qualify that as rich in information and containing depth? How is that possible?
Well, I won't have any doubts on our content, but you're right. Why would it recommend us?
I mean, they would recommend you based on your level of knowledge of customer relationship marketing or management, and basically going beyond the description of what it is to being able to describe different elements of this. And you see this in LLM platforms, right? So if you put in search the best pair of sneakers, they sort of cut it and dice it into different terrains, different styles, different occasions. And so you can start seeing how they think. They're not thinking about, best sneakers and that sneaker being that keyword, but they're really passing it out into lots of different types of classification. So if you look at it from that angle, you start realizing what they mean by specialization, right? Or knowledge or expertise, that you're not just talking about it on a high level, but you can dig into, different sub-segments of that topic to show your level of depth and knowledge of it. And that's what they're looking for. And that's the type of, blogs and articles you should be writing, as well as making it very clear and precise so that, the LLMs can actually read it and then source it and then cite it.
Do you mean that with that all of us authors shall change our writing style to no more address Ralph and Noriko, but our LLMs?
To a certain extent, yes. I mean, think about it. Until now, with search engine optimization, like SEO specialists have been telling all the brands about how you need to use that same keyword 2 to 3 times in an article, because that's how it saw the signals, and that you were then viewed by Google and ranked by Google. I mean, it's no different. You're just using a different system that has a different way of thinking, and we all are subject to algorithms and these machines in some way, right? And so you've got to say to yourself, well, this is one way of doing it, this is another way of doing it, and that's just the fact.
Okay, so probably I should ask Claude and how to change my writing style so that Claude likes me more.
Perhaps, yes, absolutely.
Or probably OpenAI and Gemini, because they seem to be more used.
I would definitely ask about AI visibility and citation, and how to make sure that your content can be cited. And they'll provide you some information, which is not that different. It's just tweaking your content and how it's presented on your website.
Okay. What would be your favorite LLM to get the assistance, aside of those which Thomas has quoted, or simply asking yourself where you get advice from?
So, I mean, the problem is that just because you program something using Claude, the real question here is that just because you are cited in Claude, you're not, it doesn't guarantee that you're cited in ChatGPT or Gemini or Perplexity. That's why if you go to any of the GEO-Tools in the marketplace right now, they will show your AI visibility across these 4 major platforms. And each one is different. And that's what makes it challenging, right? Because in the world of SEO, yes, there were lots of search engines, but Google was dominant. And so you always went to Google. And, ranking keywords for Google was really the number one thing you did. You may have, thought about other ones, but they were just a minor player. Whereas for LLMs, there are 4 major ones, and you want to be cited in each one. So you have to keep on measuring and asking each of these LLMs the same question to see if you're cited. I mean, I have my own bias, but for today, I'm not going to share it. I'm going to say all LLMs are important. Yeah.
Okay, so, and they are quite similarly widespread or similarly used. So let me just ask Claude. So which are the most used LLMs ranked by number of monthly users? What do you think will be the outcome of this question, or the result of this question? I could ask ChatGPT the same. I actually probably will. I probably will.
They have the same number in terms of the users. Yeah.
So let's see. The answer of Claude is already coming in. So for the statisticians amongst us, it's Opus 4.6 extended versus GPT 5.4 thinking right now. So there are probably the 2 most. Let's add Gemini Pro into the mix. Let's add Gemini Pro to the mix. Why do I have so many Gemini tabs open? So, okay, well, Claude.
Really checking.
Yeah, I'm curious now. So, okay, so first answer is there. What do you think that Claude tells me? You might ask the same question, actually, and I'm quite sure you're getting a different response. This should be the same.
You answer it? Do you have Claude in front of you?
I have Claude in front of me. I have ChatGPT in front of me. The latter one still thinking. And I have Gemini in front of me. Hey, and I didn't hit the go button yet. So these 3 have in front of me.
What are they saying?
Oh, well, so at least GPT and Claude are up to the first 3 are the same. Meta, GPT, Gemini. The 4th on GPT is Grok. Whoa, yuck. Versus Claude saying DeepSeek. Number 5, Claude Microsoft Copilot, which I actually is surprisingly low because, well, it's in Bing, right? 5th one, well, Copilot. 6th one in GPT is DeepSeek versus Grok and Claude. They are consistent. No, well, 7 on Claude is Claude with 8 perplexity, and GPT turns that around again. The numbers actually differ. So now where Gemini favors GPT. And then Gemini, and then Meta. Oh, and then Dubao. One that the other ones didn't have. Number 5, Perplexity. Number 6, Claude. So they have fairly different databases. So, and apparently they also have fairly different results. So how the heck shall I then optimize for at least one of them?
So, I mean, this is what several of the GEO tools are doing. So when the results are different and it's not, they're not consistent, but you want to appear in as many as possible, but at the same time, they don't give you the actual data, the prompt data. There are like 4 or 5 different methodologies that's out in the marketplace right now to try and get to some sort of standardized result. So one is they have, so some of these GEO tools that are in the marketplace have what's called an opt-in panel. So panel of users, and some of them have like 25 million users that actually type in their questions, their actual questions, and then the tools capture the answers, and then they calculate that. So this is like a pin, like a small pin in a huge ocean, but at the same time, it gives you some sense of direction, right? And then that standardizes the results in some way. So you have some directional answers. It's not complete, but it's a percentage, right? Another way of doing this is creating synthetic prompts, like asking the potential questions that people may be asking and looking at the answers, and some of them are modeled and some of them aren't. And then the other really big one is doing lots of runs. Like, let's say you want to know which is the best CRM consulting company, and because these the results are so varied amongst the different LLMs, and it can sometimes vary depending on the time of day that you ask the question. So you ask the question over and over, like in the morning, in the evening, daily, to see how varied it is and how consistent it is. Then you can then calculate citation percentage, right? So maybe your company is cited 80% of the time, but 20% of the time it isn't. That's what they can do.
Yeah, but still, they are probably not asking all the different LLMs and all their providers for these quote unquote search engines ranking themselves by users, which is the most important one. So how do I decide for which one to optimize that? If even the helpers, the providers, the tool providers, the analysis companies can't tell me which is the most important one.
So if you look at any of the GEO tools that are out there, they're not saying to prioritize one or the other. So if you look at all of them, they'll say, and most of them will say there are 4 platforms that you need to review, and look at the percentages and citations for each one, and then sort of try and understand why another company is cited versus you. And so it really is like trying to analyze something that keeps on shifting. So it's not like a definite science, because as you know, LLMs are non-deterministic. So as a result of that, it can be rather unpredictable.
That's quite funny. Let me put my cynicist hat on top, which I usually wear, so I normally don't put it off. So now these companies then charge me for telling me, go get there, do it yourself. And this makes $500. This is their service? You can't be serious.
Yes. So, Ralph, are you hearing something in the background? Is that why you're leaning forward?
No, it is simply that I was having the impact from out of the hotel room that there was somebody making noise. So I had to adjust again and refocus.
That's my dog. That's my dog making noise. Sorry.
Oh, well.
Yeah. So, yes, that's what that is the service, and they're charging any amount of money, some to the enterprise and some to startups, and they range from I don't know what, thousands. But you have to, I think the thing that you need to understand when you've got the cynical hat on is that people had a predictable answer when it came to search engine optimization. And so they want a similar answer. And I think what they want is some sort of predictable, stable answer that they can directionally.
Yeah. I mean, I'm paying them for services, and I don't want a CYA answer. Cover your backside for people who are speaking German. So where's the customer experience in that?
Well, that's why, when I did my LinkedIn Live, I, had the list of vendors that are there. And one of the things that people look at is the user experience, the dashboards. They look at, words like AI keyword volume and sentiment analysis. And one of the things that I really wanted people to understand is that it's okay to be creative when you don't have the real ground truth, because we don't have the ground truth when it comes to polling, when it comes to politics. We don't have, absolute number of, people giving answers for anything anyway. So if you look at it from that angle, it sort of is acceptable, right? Because there's no, So the point that I wanted to make at my LinkedIn and today is just to say, look, understand the methodology. Don't just accept everything that they say. The one thing that I did, say, and I'd like to say today is, if they're saying that they can analyze the AI keyword volume, ask the vendor how they calculate that. And, if the LLMs aren't providing the actual information, what is their calculation and what is their methodology? And then decide for yourself if that's something that is reasonable for you and it's something that you can tell a client, and pass the red face test.
What's
What
the red face
test? Thank you.
That's when, you can say something without getting embarrassed.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
Yes. So, I mean, to a certain extent, if there's a methodology, you have to be able to accept it, right? And you have to acknowledge it and say, is this something that I can sell, or is this something I can't sell? I think that's one of the things that you have to say to yourself, especially because GEO is a growing and early discipline and there's a lot of unknowns. So, yeah.
The lot of unknowns does come to the question. You did in your presentation also some comparison of the vendor landscape. And I was stunned and honestly asked myself, such a comparison is always nice. Such a comparison does give you some beef. But where do you see so to say, the beef and the light, what are the most important criteria you look for aside of the methodology?
Beside the methodology?
Exact, beside the methodology, because there is in the comparison a lot of rows which are not only telling you something about the methodology, but you have some other aspects you look for to compare them. So I was curious how you drive this forward for those number crunchers in the buying scenario, or where they have a side of the methodology to look for and be cautious on.
I feel like methodology is the most important thing because it's the
Okay.
only thing that gives you an understanding of the science behind the metrics. Like they are
Okay.
all selling a metric that brands are relying on for how visible their company is in GEO. So if these companies are selling a metric, you better understand where this metric comes from and how reliable it is, because let's just say that you decide to go with one of the companies and you've accepted the methodology and you're looking at this dashboard and saying that you are cited 80% of the time. You want to then somehow see that sort of translate into something, right? Whether it becomes
Yeah.
phone call or whether they come to you and purchase your consulting service or something. And so that metric then becomes the closest thing to an answer there is.
Okay.
And I think that's the key thing that you have to ask yourself. That's why I keep on saying you have to be comfortable with the methodology and
Yeah.
pass the red face test, because in the end, you're saying that this methodology is going to be reliable and going to give you some indication of how often you're cited in GEO, in these LLMs, when somebody asks you a question. And so you're going to be investing money into this service or, to make
Exactly.
sure that you're cited. And I think that's the thing. And that's where you just have to be really careful.
I would like to shoot two questions in your direction. The one is, which is the best bargain you saw in value for money, and who is claiming to be top notch?
So there are two companies that I keep on seeing. And they've both had a lot of sort of interest, and there's a lot talked about them. And one is called Profound and one is called Peak AI. And both of them, either have synthetic prompts or have opt-in panels. But because they were early in the game and because they are generating a lot of interest, there's a lot of following and demand for them. So if you put in GEO tool, which is best, you will see something like Profound or Peak, or there are a couple of others as well that will generally come up.
Put in where, by the way, into my favorite LLM or into my favorite search engine?
You can put in the search engine or you could put it into the LLMs, and these two GEO tools will come up in addition to several others.
Okay, so for time being, it's advisable to do both, yeah?
Yeah, I would do both and see if they come up at all. Others may come up, but those two seem pretty consistent. And especially SEO specialists tend to be talking about them. Again, SEO specialists have a practice. They want to maintain their practice, and they want a tool that gives them answers that they feel confident about so that they can say to their clients, this is the GEO solution, right? So think about it that way. In terms of a bargain, I mean,
There's
they
none.
range from subscriptions range from, under $100 to thousands of dollars, depending upon the size of the company
Oof.
and how
Mhm.
often these citations, how often these companies use the tools for citation. Okay, so it depends. So I can't give you like a general answer. It really depends on how often that company is using the GEO tool.
Okay.
So now
I
you
appreciate it.
you said repeatedly that the one and only thing to look at is methodology. So now, if I look at consulting companies, which these are essentially as well, there are probably more methodologies than companies around. Is there any of them that is somehow scientifically backed that I can say without doing in-depth research, okay, if they are using this methodology ABC, that this is one, if they apply it as they say, that this is one that leads to normally good results, as opposed to XYZ that doesn't.
So my
I mean,
answer,
you're a PhD, so I'm looking for scientific research, scientific proof.
So I would say that each one of them is directional. Each of them will probably have engineers and scientists who provide research into the methodology. I would say that it really depends on what you think will provide greater accuracy. So, question for you, like, is having a representative group of panelists doing search questions more likely to give you real world answers versus doing the same prompt over and over again and increasing the frequency, like doing the frequency number of times? Which one do you think is going to give you accuracy? Two different methodologies, right?
I'd go for the panel because looking at the LLMs that I worked with, the more often I ask, the more I get the same response because they have memory, which puts them into drift basically. So it's increasing bias.
Yes. So I think with the frequency methodology, you have to make sure that it goes back to zero, right? So when they are asking the questions, you need to make sure that it's not biased in some way. Otherwise, the search result is not scientifically backed.
Yeah, so that's a friend of mine, another PhD, by the way. He just was wondering whether, when he started to no more trust the responses from his various LLMs, so he asked a bunch of us to do an experiment, ask the same question that he asks, and get some results, give him back the results. Just to see whether, his LLMs have turned to become sycophants or not. So, which is an extreme version of bias, right? So,
yes,
just tell him what he wants to hear. Right?
Yes. And what was the result of that experiment?
Well, he is just analyzing the data that came back. Today's 31st. Yeah, today's 31st.
Yeah.
So the deadline, the drop deadline for our responses to him was yesterday. So he's working on it.
Okay.
I'm quite curious on that one. So
Yeah,
definitely, because it was a very practical, a very realistical checkup, and it was from the educational and the scientific analysis, such as how much trust can one put in such an approach. And this will be a very interesting outcome.
Will be interesting. But now throwing your question right back at you.
Okay.
Which one would you choose? Which one would you go for of those two?
Of those two, I'm sort of leaning towards repeating the question over and over. And the reason why is because the only thing that's measurable is citation for a question. And you can have a panel of users ask a whole bunch of questions, in different ways, but it's really for us, the only ground truth is, are you cited or are you not cited? And so, putting in the question and seeing how many times you can be cited to us is probably closest to, not manipulating and not biasing things. That's basically the way that we're going. Yeah.
Now, putting that a step further, what at the moment we are asking, we are changing the count of the citations. Well, at the moment that the response comes back, we are changing the count of citations. So aren't we becoming self-serving then sooner or later? I pretty much assume that is not a Gaussian distribution, or basically not an even distribution.
I think
it is there at the beginning.
Yeah. I mean, it's really, because the thing is, none of the LLMs are deterministic, right? It's non-deterministic. So that there's a level of inconsistency that comes with LLMs. We all know that. That's why, we talk about hallucinations. We talk about the fact that, if you change one word, the answer comes back differently. So that's why what we'd like to do is to run some of these questions and variations of questions multiple times to see if there is a level of consistency and what is the variance, of not being cited, and just see what that delta is. That's the approach that we're going to take. It could be right, it could be wrong. It's but it's an approach, right?
Yeah, and it's pretty much the same as used elsewhere. Just it was the same in SEO early days, right? So try a bunch of keywords and check which one runs best. Yeah,
absolutely.
Just on a more semantic level than syntactical, but still the question remains: if I get back responses, and as they are probabilistic, they are likely picking up on the best one, likely. Don't they change the result by just giving back the response?
So
the result for the next time, because the authority of the most cited source is going up because it's getting more cited.
Yes. There is an element of that we have to be careful of. And one is what you mentioned before, which is, how do you make sure that you don't use the same LLM so that it starts, creating biases and telling you what you want, but at the same time, making sure that it's not always saying, coming back to that. But maybe it is a gaming, maybe it does start gaming itself, because LLMs are based on training data, and training data has been, all sorts of things. But, the more that you put that information in it, the more that it comes back. We'll see. I mean, it's really a very valid question. Are we, if we keep on doing the frequency of questions, does that then game it? Let's see.
Yeah, just systematically, probably without even the intention. Because this might run us into the law of unintended consequences here. So this is deeply philosophical.
It is philosophical. My gut feeling is that if a lot of GEO tools end up doing that, I wouldn't be surprised if the LLMs, because they have an algorithm, and of course they don't want, just like Google didn't want search to be, gamed. I'm sure that the LLMs are going to do the same thing. That if they see certain biases, if they see certain types of searches, they're going to adjust that. So let's see what happens. I really don't have an answer to that. Yeah.
Well,
Fair enough.
yeah. Future will tell. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I'm curious. There is that interesting abbreviation EEAT, and as I'm getting hungry, eat is quite in my head. But the other E, can you help me? What the abbreviation means?
It's experience, expertise, authority, and trust. And
Bingo.
so those.
So no food, just brain food. Okay.
Yeah, brain food. And it goes back to the discussion that we had before, which was which articles or blogs or which information is cited. And LLMs tend to go towards those that have expertise, experience, authority, trust. And as I mentioned before, they tend to veer towards those that have a certain name with a certain expertise and depth of knowledge. So it wasn't by accident that EEAT is both important for SEO as well as GEO.
So now looking into the same thing from another angle again. So what makes me authoritative is probably the way I express myself, but what makes me an authority is if many people say, hey, this guy is the last thing since the best thing since sliced bread. Yeah, which usually is measured by followers. So does that mean that Kim Kardashian is an authority? Because I mean, there's hundreds of millions.
Not unless Kim Kardashian is cited through earned media to be like, didn't you go for a law degree? Like, an expert in law.
Yeah.
Unless you have citations like that, and unless she positions herself as a legal authority, she would not come up. I mean, at the moment, she'll come up as a reality star, right? A celebrity. I don't know what sort of expertise she has. I don't know if she positions herself as an influencer, or if she's a fashion, influencer, or if she's something else. That depends on how she wants to position herself and how it's cited in places, how others are talking about her, and what she's saying on the website.
Which basically comes back to the original. So I need to phrase my content, not only phrase, well, the content can also be visual, right? In a way that I get found by the systems that are looking for exactly that. Yeah.
Yes, absolutely. And I think the content has to be much, much tighter than before and very consistent. So if you look at, for example, LinkedIn changed their algorithm recently, and everyone's talking about that, right? And the way that they are talking about the algorithm is very similar to how LLMs find content. And so they're saying, you have to be very specific about your niche, and in your profile, you have to say what you are an expert in, and you have to post about it so that there is a consistent content and theme. And if you do that across your individual LinkedIn profile and your company profile, then you get found. That's some of the reasons why, Semrush has LinkedIn at one of the two top platforms that's cited a lot, because it's one of the few social media platforms where you have verified user with a specialty. And so that's why it's cited a lot. But yeah, you have to be very, very conscious of how you're positioning yourself.
Looking at the increasing number of nefarious recruiters that contact me on LinkedIn, I doubt that this algorithm works. So, you look at the profile, 3 followers, 25 years of experience, degrees from those 5 law schools, law school for a recruiter, then something's wrong there, right?
Yeah.
So what are they doing right to play well, there's an LLM behind that as well, probably. What are they doing right or wrong that they are found and not the real recruiter of, well, name your advanced recruiting company?
I think what LinkedIn wants to do with content is different from the way that people are coming to you as recruiters, because LinkedIn has the Sales Navigator, and Sales Navigator has been positioned as a way to contact people and to, sell something, right? And it's different. It's in some ways separate, because what LinkedIn wants to be found for is content, good content. And that's why algorithm have been changed about your content versus somebody targeting you from a Sales Navigator perspective. So I think those two, I think I would separate those a little bit.
Okay.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, on the other hand, one way to become an authority is back to followers, right? At least as long as those followers are, well, in the same niche and not just random purchased followers like all those YouTube sellers are giving one. So, hey, get 10,000 followers for $10 or $100. This is probably not increasing my authority.
No, I mean, and I think LinkedIn made it very clear that, amongst your followers, it's not likes anymore that's going to unearth you and make you visible, right? I think you've heard this as well, that now it's about comments and the quality of the comments that come back.
So I have to buy comments, not longer likes. Yeah,
You have to try and get
pay
comments.
people to drive me crazy in commenting 500 comments on one post.
Yes, that's the way that LinkedIn is ensuring that you become visible.
Okay, so now gaming that system, engaging my favorite LLM to create a bunch of comments is not that hard, given that I have access to a bunch of profiles, which doesn't seem to be that uncommon as well.
Yes, that's one way of doing it, as long as they don't, LinkedIn doesn't find out that you've got bots. Right?
Well, they don't seem to be doing a good job at that.
There are definitely bots in the market. Yes, I totally agree.
One has the impression they are like thoughtful and intelligent as some politicians.
Are you talking about bots, or are you talking about LinkedIn?
Let's talk it in two perspectives. The bots are smart enough to cheat on LinkedIn or convince it that it is authentical input, such as some of the politicians remind me of a German fairy tale. The flute man who is collecting all the rats in Hameln, der Rattenfänger von Hameln. That is something which drives me to the point that buying likes or buying comments or get machinery, LLMs to create comments for your posts is interesting. So not as trustworthy as I would like to have it if I want to see the authority part.
Yes, absolutely. I mean, obviously, if you can get these authority up, not through bots, but through real engagement, and that's the key, right? I'm not entirely sure how some people are able to get reposts. Oh, my dog is participating in this conversation.
I would say he has the voice and he would like to engage with a certain comment on some of these topics, which if Loki would have been commenting, we would have listened to that as well. Yeah.
This one, actually, my dog's name is Loki.
Oh, mine too.
Honest,
Really?
funny. What a coincidence. So Loki and Loki will have a chat afterwards.
Yeah.
And
Sorry about that.
interesting. Yeah, what kind of dog do you have, out of curiosity?
Mine is a French bulldog.
Okay.
Ah, okay.
Halfway German Shepherd in our case. Neighbors.
Completely derailed.
Yeah, totally. I mean, coming from this LinkedIn angle,
Yeah.
paid content, paid activation versus genuine measurement, right? So is this really the future, that I buy my comments in order to become an authority? That's something we have seen before. So why does that return all the times?
Well, I mean, we're talking about LinkedIn, and we started talking about LinkedIn algorithms, but the way that LLMs look at citations is a completely different game. So I would say that LinkedIn is, one of the platforms that's cited a lot just because, because of the authority. Basically, you can check that the person who's writing it is, legitimate, right? That's what LinkedIn provides. So that's one of the reasons why, LinkedIn is cited so much. But from my perspective, I'd like to think that the website is the hub. And then LinkedIn is one of the spokes that the LLMs are checking, because it checks lots of different platforms to verify what you're saying and come to a decision about what you represent.
So as a conclusion then, post on LinkedIn, but be the heck sure that it's also on your website. Yeah?
Yes, absolutely. That's what I would recommend. Yeah.
Well, I need my bots to do more work then.
Chase the slaves.
Rico, we are coming up to the hour, and we need to train a little more. Well, need to train ourselves a little more on our changed algorithm, which is not giving you the chance for famous last words, but doing a lightning round of questions with you, you and with you.
Okay.
Quick question, quick answer, 5 times. So we have AI keyword volume. Is that a useful directional signal, or is that just fiction?
Fiction.
That was a very fast one. If you could force every LLM to publish one data point about how they surface brands, what would it be?
Ask it what signal led to the citation. Is it a statistic? Is it a name? Is it an expertise, a title? Ask it.
Okay. Now
Hopefully, Loki is not disagreeing with what you said. Yeah.
He's agreeing.
Perfect.
Looking at Reddit, is it the most underrated asset in GEO, or is it overrated and gamed?
Like Reddit content was used to train
Yeah.
many of the LLMs, and Q&A is one of the ways that LLMs like to get information. So I would say it's neither underrated or gamed. It's just what's appearing now, and it may change. It may change.
Will Google ever give us a keyword search for AI overviews? What's your opinion on that one?
At the moment, no. And as I said before, Google is the leading SEO engine, like search engine. Who's to say that Gemini is the leading engine? It could be, but it may not be. Then it doesn't really matter, right?
Yeah, for that not, yeah. For the others, maybe. Looking ahead 5 years, a similar question. Will GEO have SEO for breakfast or the other way around?
That is really interesting. An SEO person would say SEO will eat GEO, and those who believe that LLMs is the future will say GEO is eating SEO.
And what does Noriko say?
Noriko says, I'm going to go for GEO.
So you're not an SEO person anymore, yeah?
Okay.
Sorry, couldn't resist.
We'll see how correct or incorrect I am in 5 years' time. I maybe it's 50-50 chance, right?
We'll revisit that.
Promise.
Thanks, Noriko. That's been fabulous.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'm so glad that you were okay with Loki coming on and snorting.
Of course we are.
From time to time, the Lokis in our hearts and worlds do have an important role. Trust us.
All right, totally enjoyed being on this show. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we enjoyed it too, as you have probably seen.
All right, then. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I hope the guests have enjoyed it too. And I hope that they'll come back when we next week talk with Clint Oram, another repeat offender. So who comes to talk with us once in a while, probably a bit more than once in a while, when we are looking into his view on not GEO adoption, but AI adoption in general in 2026. So that'll be another interesting one, actually. Right. So thanks to you, thanks to everybody else, and see you soon. Hey, there's a comment coming in. Well, konnichiwa from YouTube.
Oh, very good.
Okay.
So this is probably a buy that gets back as a response.
Mm-hmm.
See ya.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.